Well, hi, everybody. It's the Week in the Tackle podcast, the podcast where we get together on a weekly basis and tackle some things from the world of soccer and or football that we thought were interesting. I'm Tom Rennie of TalkSport, Sirius XM fame. That's Brian Dunseth of Sirius XM, but also MLS and TNT and Apple and your local beautician fame, I guess. Hey, Dunny, all right?
Renzo and Dunny back together. Yeah, no, I'm doing fantastic, my man. We're down in Los Angeles this week. Spent some time down at the Bellamar in Manhattan Beach. Did a 7.5-mile walk. I went down to the boardwalk. I cruised past the sand dunes, went all the way down to Hermosa Beach and the pier, and then worked my way back. And I was really, really exhausted and sore. It's weird how you can get sore walking. But great game. LAFC 2-0 winners over Houston Dynamos with T.O. Max and company. And then we're right back into it, my man. So fun weekend. Some really games. Sorry, Tim. Let's just get this started off correctly. I mean, it was as boring of a weekend when watching our teams. Just horrific. I mean, I think we can very clearly displace Manchester United, West Ham, and Tottenham from any conversation of real football at this stage. Because midweek action, not for you guys, but for us, trying to win a Europa League and a trophy, and the rest of it's just boring and mundane. And now your favorite high neck collared manager in Andoni Iraola is absolutely flying, and within that much of a distance of being amongst the new world of the Brentfords and the Aston Villas and even the Nottingham Forests.
1 year only. 1 year only. This whole
I love just why didn't you dislike him so much you can't even give him credit.
This whole little cavalcade of like miscellaneous nonsense teams, which are like Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth, and Fulham. Like next year, West Ham will not be as bad as this. Man U, no way will be bad as this. Tottenham, no way will be bad as this. So we'll talk about it because I'd love them to qualify for whatever this year, because next year going to be a better Premier League, because those clubs with some money, there's just no way they're going to be this bad. On that, so it is my villain of the week, because I like to use the end of this podcast to vent for a couple of minutes, as you know, and there's so shit every week.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. By the way, next Sunday, the Rennie Derby at Old Trafford.
I know.
You know that?
I know.
The battle for 16th.
Yeah.
Big
story we'll be really invested once we brush aside Athletic Bilbao, or Athletic Club, excuse me. And get ready for our return to San Mames.
I mean, West Ham have not won a game since I had a fringe. Like, it's been so long now.
And you still go to games.
So that's what I was going to tell you. But I do think for next week's show, we should hot sauce bet, because they're both so bad. We should.
You're in for it. Okay, yeah. Whatever.
I'm only in for it because it's like, what other reason would I have to watch this game? Like, why would I sit through it on my own?
I've got a new hot sauce group.
Go on.
I don't know. It's a Stranger Things hot sauce.
Oh, okay.
It's a collaboration with the show Stranger Things.
Have you seen the show? Do you like the show?
I love Stranger Things. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, kind of probably mimics real life at this stage. Who knows?
I haven't seen it, so I assume that means it's.
Yeah. Well.
Sorry, Tim.
So
this weekend, this Sunday. So it's the last West Ham game I can go to this year because of the way the season has worked out. And so I went with my sister and my nephew to the game. So we traveled in together. It was all very nice, had some lunch, and then we'd go to the game. But then I leave them to go to my sort of press seat. So I have to walk around the stadium to the away, basically where the away fans go in. And I didn't realize till I was walking around the outside of the stadium that I was wearing essentially a Tottenham outfit. And So I try not to wear any claret. I'm wearing a claret jumper today, so I don't want to look like I'm a fan or whatever, because that's not where I'm going. But then I realized that I was wearing like a plain white long sleeve sweater, black jeans, and a white hat. And it's like, this is what all the Tottenham fans are wearing. I probably should be wearing this. And as I was walking by, you go past the last bit of West Ham fans before you get to the away bit. And literally as I'm going by, my own people are going, off. Sorry, Tim. And I'm like, that's where I looked down. I was like, oh, yeah. Didn't think it through in any way.
That's amazing.
Never wear the colours of either team that are playing. You should think about it, but I didn't. So anyway.
What's crazy is that they knew, even though you were wearing that colorway, that you were still
Sorry, Tim.
Sorry, Tim.
This goes out in England. That's a sweary over here. Yes, people. Maybe it wasn't about the kit. Maybe they just heard the
Yeah.
podcast. I don't know. Anyway, so I did sort of think, because you're absolutely right, there is no kind of dominant story today. I thought we could kind of smorgasbord and just go through a
Yeah.
whole bunch of. There's a lot of really good mid-level stories that I think we could touch on and do a bit of
I
a.
think I have one. I think I have one I'd like to propose.
Yeah, go on, go for it.
So now Man City is within 3 points of Arsenal.
Yeah.
And this categorically being the worst Man City we've ever seen from the month of what, like kind of late October to probably mid March. If they are able to catch Arsenal and somehow even end up above Arsenal when it's all said and done, because obviously Arsenal's distracted by PSG
Hmm.
for this week's Champions League return to Paris. Like, how do we verbalize what that says about literally the worst season Pep Guardiola has ever had
Hmm.
versus this continual talk of an evolution of Mikel Arteta and what Arsenal could be?
I don't think you can have that conversation until you talk about the money and the sovereign wealth fund of it all. And I think the first Guardiola season, where they squeaked into the Champions League on the final day 8 years ago, was arguably worse, because they didn't belong anywhere near the Champions League that season, all season. But I think that, like, reports of Man City's great big recovery annoys me, because they spent so much money in January. They
Yeah,
spent so much money last summer. And I go back to the Wolves game a couple of weeks ago, that the goal they scored to win that game was like that late winner. Was it Wolves? No, Wolves was this week. It was a couple of weeks ago. I forget the game now. The Villa game. It was the Villa game.
yeah,
And the cross came from Jeremy Doku, their third choice left winger, £65 million. And the goal was scored by Mateus Nunes,
yeah.
again, £65 million. He's like fourth choice right back, and seventh choice central midfielder, and ninth choice attacking right midfielder. So, like, even their reserves and third string, and people that wouldn't probably make the squad if everyone was fit, cost more. Like, we talk about West Ham, for example, and their big spend last summer. Those two non-entities at City cost only £30 million less than West Ham's biggest summer spend ever.
Mm,
So it just, like, your point is well taken, that compared to City's usual standards, it's been useless. But, like, I just think that any comparison of City compared to anyone else, it doesn't work for me, because
mm.
even in their doldrums, they can still spend just they can just toss off 50 mil on Omar Marmoush,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
30 mil on Calamity Kusanov, and the other one whose name I've forgotten, Nico Gonzalez. They spent 120 million
Just Nico.
pounds. Just
Just
Nico.
Nico. Yeah, just Nico.
I think I'm thinking of the Fiorentina player, but, like, anyway, Nico midfield. But even, like, so it just, I think your point is right, but I would struggle to praise them for finishing third and 6 points behind Arsenal.
But isn't, and again, I take your counterpoint, and I guess my return volley to this wasn't Arsenal at, like Sfaracellia at PSG. They go all in January and they
Mm.
find their guy and they purchase him off Napoli and they trigger the release clause. I mean, it's not as if Arsenal doesn't have the availability of cash and money. And I know there's an inevitable change behind the scenes with the infrastructure and the leadership and decisive, the decision makers, and who's divisive, who's decisive. But like, I feel like there's still a culpability, a responsibility for Arsenal that they didn't take that opportunity, they didn't take that chance, which leads to the narrative of, in these last 5 seasons, outside of lifting that FA Cup trophy against Chelsea and Frank Lampard at the time, that he's turned over the roster. They've spent the money, but they haven't got that guy that's going to give them
Yeah.
15 to 20, no matter what. And they were capable of doing it, but they chose not to do it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And so, like, my return volley to that is absolutely correct with Man City. They can waste, they can spend, they can do whatever, they can miss. They're not going to be as held accountable because they have all of this money generated. The commercial entity is a monster, but, like, Arsenal could have done the same thing, and they probably should have done the same thing, specific to also their Champions League campaign.
I think they can't do the same thing as City, but they could do the same thing as Liverpool. I know Liverpool didn't spend this
Absolutely.
summer, but their finances are broadly similar. And I think the signing of Calafiori was a huge failure last summer. Not to say Calafiori's bad. I think he's very good.
He's
He was just
solid.
not
Yeah.
necessary. They
Yeah.
did not. Ricardo Calafiori, I know he's got a few goals and whatnot, has not been the difference maker this season. If they'd have bought Alexander Isak and Jamie Vardy last summer, They would have had Alexander Isak as the central striker, and Jamie Vardy comes on for the final 20 every game, plays the qualifiers in the Champions League where they're through, plays the FA Cup, plays the League Cup, and they have a perfect balance. If they'd have done that for the money spent on Calafiori and put 50 mil on top of that, I think they'd probably win the Champions League. And I think they would have been a lot closer in the Premier League. So I think that's right. But look, I think the comparison is Liverpool over the last 3 years, Arsenal over the last 3 years. And Liverpool have clearly built the squad better than Arsenal have. And like even Darwin Núñez, like he's been a kind of waste, but I think he'd have started every game for Arsenal,
I,
when they thought about
I
it.
still listen. I still think Darwin Núñez at Arsenal could be really effective.
As in the future, realistically.
Right now. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, if you were to if you're again, you think about Ivan Toney was the conversation, right? Victor Osimhen was the conversation. Ollie Watkins got caught in the weird John Duran moment of Aston Villa. Who can you capitalize on most because you're up against it and you want to strengthen the roster? And you can't have two guys, very different dynamics in terms of player profile, but also attitude, presence, all of that stuff. Darwin Núñez, listen, I don't know what it is. Like, I get it. Like, he's the butt of the joke for a lot of people. But when I watch him with Uruguay, watch him in Copa America, when I watched him at Benfica, like I wanted him at United. I would have taken him over Højlund and Xerxes in a hot minute, in a hot minute. So I was thinking about this all the time. Like I was thinking about this the other day, and I can't remember who I was talking to about it. But Darwin Núñez in front of that group of players with that type of service and the consistency. And really no competition. I think you're still always trying to figure out the Kai Havertz conundrum. What's his best moment? I don't think you can probably. I mean, at this point, Gabby Jesus extraordinary career and success, but you can't trust the knee.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was throwing stuff against the wall, seeing what sticked, and kind of
interesting.
Walking through a couple different scenarios where thinking about for Arsenal. It's going to be interesting. I mean, at a bare minimum, they'll have Champions League football. They'll have the extra 40 million in the account. They'll try to figure out a way to subsidize some of this account by selling some of the youth academy players, which will all go back in. That's what Man City does so incredibly well to offset the spend, very quietly generating 60 to 70 million each and every season. I still think Cole Palmer, that sale will go down as one of the most underrated, undervalued sales when it's all said and done. And I know we'll talk about Cole Palmer again because he's actually unfrozen because he was actually really good for the first time in a while. But yeah, it was really fascinating when I realized that Man City is now within 3 points of Arsenal, and it's been some tough decisions, some self-inflicted moments where they've allowed referees to make decisions, and then obviously some injury concerns. But a hell of a team nonetheless.
Well, they're going to finish third and win the FA Cup, and that would be a better season than Arsenal season, where they've come second.
Or they finish second and win the FA Cup.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if Arsenal, once they get knocked out on what it is Wednesday, once they get knocked out, which they will, I'd be surprised if they drop many more points after that. What, 3 games left?
Just a quick.
Well, it's Liverpool the weekend. Do you see Liverpool this weekend? They don't give a flying squirrel about what's going on.
I love that you used it. I love
that
you used it.
I do these things for you.
I'm having an effect. It's also then Newcastle at home and then away at Southampton. City are away at Southampton. Bournemouth away at Fulham.
You think Southampton are going to beat them both?
I think Southampton will have an egistical approach and then collapse maybe around the 70th minute.
7-0 both games.
Yeah, who knows? I think there's points to be dropped. How about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, second or third, I think it's an interesting point. And if it happens, we can really put the boot into Arsenal. The issue with Arsenal is the problems were evident. They were not fixing the transfer window. And actually, feeling sorry for them is too strong. But I worked on the game at the weekend against Bournemouth. And like, he turns around to his bench, Arteta. And I want to ask you about the team actually in a second. But like, Andoni Iraola in his turtleneck turns around to his bench and he can bring on Antoine Semenyo, who changed the game completely. He can bring on Alex Scott, who's a very good developing midfielder. Is he more of an attacking midfielder now than I thought he was potentially?
What did you think of Araujo?
Not great. I didn't think he was great. He looked really rusty.
First game in months. Yeah.
I mean, Martinelli roasted him a few times, and I'm not sure about the pace. But I mean, when was the last time he played? 8 months, 9 months, or something like that.
Yeah, he had the hamstring surgery. He's been out for a while.
But he certainly wasn't getting to top.
What do you think about Tyler? You like Tyler?
Not really. I think he struggled a lot, certainly in the first half. I think he struggled. I think they looked a lot better when Alex Scott came on. I think their balance is better. I think they miss Ryan Christie massively.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. I don't think he's a good player, Tyler Adams, but I don't think he's a great player. But
Cliver should have had a couple goals as well. The
But
chip of the
like,
key. But by
but
the way, you were talking about Columbus Crew in the middle of the game as well. Was that Paul Parker you were with?
was I? Why was I? We were
Yeah,
having a lot of fun. Paul,
yeah.
so I love Paul. And
Paul deflected immediately because he has no interest in
no,
Major League Soccer.
of course he
And
doesn't. Why
I
would
think
he?
you brought up Cucho and you talk about Wilfred Nancy, and then you went into your goal call a second later.
Yes. I
But
do remember
you could
talking
tell.
about it. I can't remember the context of why it came
Uh,
up, but it was something like that. Probably because like there were strikers available. Like, would Cucho
mm,
Hernandez have started for Arsenal? Yeah, of course he would.
yeah,
He was brilliant the weekend in the Betis win. Absolutely amazing. So,
yeah. And so is Anthony. You see Anthony top ends. Holy moly!
what's happening there? I know I want to do the other thing, but you've done it now. What is happening with Anthony?
So
The
well, first
spinneroonie
off,
guy, the spinny man.
yeah, yeah. The I don't know. I did that.
That's good.
Um,
We're really just shooting the shit today, aren't we? Sorry, Tim.
yeah, it's fine. Anthony. I as I look back, I mean, there's a conversation about level, right? There has to be inevitably a conversation about level and pressure because what he was at Ajax is what he currently is at Real Betis.
Hmm.
We saw glimpses at Man United, but we never saw enough,
No.
right? And I think there was so many moments where you could tell that it wasn't working and that there were better options available, and yet Erik ten Hag, in a weird way, had to justify bringing him and spending the money, right? Because they way overspent on what his real value was. But there's a United tax. Everyone's very very aware of that. Um, I think his private life and the accusations that kind of hounded him earlier in the year, before the move and coming out of the summer, I think is there's a nuance to how that relates to his performance, because I think anytime that a player is in legal strife, that's going to cause some sleepless nights, and that's going to really deter the focus.
Hmm.
And I think there's probably something about living in Seville and the sun being out every single day and the language and the culture and the food and the experience and all of this. And again, the level. And so he walks right into the team for the most part without a lot of competition that he was facing at Manchester United. So I think much like Marcus Rashford, even Jadon Sancho to an extent, not so much, at least they're playing. And I think they're, can't say it about Sancho, but specific to Rashford and Anthony, at least that Manchester United has the opportunity to recapture some of the value, as opposed to these are crazy distressed assets. We can't make anything off them whatsoever. We're going to have to eat portions of their salary. It's kind of like it's like the Harry Maguire conversation to West Ham a couple of years
Hmm.
ago.
Should have
Like,
signed him.
is it worth moving? Is it worth like selling? Is it worth eating parts of his contract for him to go away? Versus Lamine Yamal Maguire on the right hand side wearing the number 7 shirt. Those memes were amazing.
Yeah. So Dunny
I sent
sent
them all to him.
me endless memes of Harry Maguire as the best players in the world. There was him with Lamar's hair.
Yeah.
What else did we get? There was him as
Hey,
Maradona.
Maradona. There
Did you
was
make
one.
these, or are people sending them to you?
No, no, I just saw him on the interwebs.
Right.
There
Okay.
was OG Ronaldo with that front cut and everything being bald, and it was Harry Maguire.
It's good. They are good. But he should.
Yeah,
But
it
I
was
mean,
fun.
when you say Max Kilman, he'd have been our best defender as well. So we should have signed him. Should have paid the money. But anyway,
Easily. Yeah,
listen, we'll do that later because I really don't like Max Kilman. But just going
I
back to
could
the
tell.
Arsenal thing briefly, in terms of like when you see Bournemouth have got a better bench, when you see all like it just
Yeah,
that's what's let Arsenal down, right? Now, to your point that began the conversation, I do think that Man City will be above Arsenal next year. I think Liverpool will stay above Arsenal next year unless they buy the 2 strikers
mm,
and some bench depth. Like you can't turn around. How disrespectful or how evident is it he's got no time for Raheem Sterling, Alexander Zinchenko. Who was the other ones on there? There was a couple of others on there. Kieran Tierney, and another player as well. And it's a
yeah,
little bit like, even in this nothing game, you wouldn't give Zinchenko any minutes. You still flogged Rice and Erdegaard and Martinelli. Like, that's how low he rates the bench. I mean, how are they even in the
yeah.
Champions League semi-final?
Well, that was the joke with my Arsenal buddies. I was like, this is a completely worthless game when both Raheem Sterling and Zinchenko are on the field for Mikel Arteta, and they didn't even start. That's the worst part.
Didn't
Like,
even start.
yeah, and again, like I don't know if you caught it, but when Declan Rice went over the end line for one of the balls, he kind of like he jammed his ankle a little bit,
Yeah,
and he
his
was like,
plate
you
came
could
off, I
see
think.
him. Yeah, you could see him kind of like, this doesn't feel good. So yeah, challenges all around. Listen, I'm very cognizant of Mikel Arteta rebuilding the squad that he had taken over in his own, like his style. And again, the Amazon all or nothing with Arteta, I think gives you more insight of the challenges that he had at the time versus like the culture he was trying to create. So, he's missed on a couple. Um, he obviously thought Calafiori and Mikel Merino were two players that needed, for the value and experience, would be important pieces, not starters. I guess I didn't think at this stage that Thomas Partey would be as important to Mikel Arteta and as important to Declan Rice being higher up the field to alleviate some of the stress for Martin Odegaard, to then alleviate some of the stress for Bukayo Saka up top. And ultimately trying to figure out at this stage, with no true number 9, do you go with Trossard? Do you go with Marino? Do you go like he's got some decisions, and I'll be interested to see the idea of overcomplicating it against PSG, being down 1-0, because if they can get an early goal, it'll be interesting to see kind of the havoc that's created by the nerves, understanding how close they are to a Champions League final.
I want to get to a question about motivation in a minute. Before we do, a bit of light housekeeping. If you enjoy the Week in the Tackle podcast, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. So if you're listening on Apple right now, go to Spotify and subscribe there, or vice versa. On any platform, do give us a 5-star review. Really helps us in the algorithm, the more reviews that we get. And if you can, leave us a written review. I will read out some of the funnier ones. These came into me on a combination of Blue Sky and Spotify. So I've got 3 ones for you.
I feel like I need to protect myself. I read some of these. I need to protect myself. I've got an explanation ready.
Oh, well, I did post them in the Week in the Tackle thread between you, me, and Tim, just so you'd be aware of what they were there. Plus, I could find them. So this came in from, let's do the Michael one first, because he enjoyed the program last week. He said, I did a weird segue last week from Phantom of the Opera into the season being dead. And I said, speaking of Father's Graveyard, the season is dead. Michael said, I laughed so hard I cried. It's just so stupidly elegant that only Rennie and the Week in the Tackle podcast could come up with this. And if you're not listening to Week in the Tackle, you're missing out on gold. So, Michael, thank you. You also said last week about your airplane issues.
Yeah.
And Justin said on Blue Sky, I was with Dunny on the airplane rant until we complained about window shades. If you want to control the window, you buy the window seat. You probably also think no one should ever recline their seat too.
No.
Well, that's not what Dunny thinks.
Wrong. How dare you?
But what about the window seat reviews?
Yeah, it's blasphemous. I always get the window, and I do that for a reason. But here's what I think. Number 1, wear socks, you filthy animals. Number 2, if you take your shoes off, don't put your feet up. Like, don't put them on the wall. Number 3, the thing about the window is I'm talking about first flight in the morning, like first flight out type stuff.
Yeah.
Where everybody is exhausted. Don't be talking. Don't carry on a full conversation with your neighbor that you're never going to see again. Like, nobody got time for that, right? Unless you think your person next to you is super hot and you want to have some type of physical relationship, go for it. But my problem is when I'm trying to fall asleep and it's like 5:50 departure time, it's the knuckleheads that leave the window shades open that like can't sleep, that are like, oh, I'm going to get some work done. And the sun is just blaring into the guy on the opposite into his face. Like that, by the way, full recline, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
Really?
It's got a button, recline the living sorry, Tim, out of your chair.
Disagree.
Immediately.
Hard disagree.
Lift off.
No.
Yeah.
I never recline under any circumstances. I never recline the chair.
This is me, Rennie. As the moment that we hit the wheels leave the ground, this is me.
I literally never recline my chair under any circumstances. Even if I'm flying overnight, I don't recline my chair. And if people recline their chair and don't like acknowledge me sitting behind them, I will get really annoyed. I have spoken to people in front of me and said, you could have just asked me. Like, it would have been fine.
Why would I? Wait. You're so wrong.
No, I'm not.
Why would anyone have to ask you? It's
because
not your space. You're sitting in a chair.
Into my face, and it is my airspace. I bought that airspace in front of me.
You've got plenty of room.
There's not plenty of room. There's not plenty of room. And people with long, like, disgusting matted hair going back in my face when I'm trying to watch a romantic movie on the...
If someone flicks their hair over the head, feel free to throw some gum in there.
Yeah. Gum? What is the 90s? I haven't got gum. No one has gum anymore. That doesn't exist. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention, the other review, was from Tyler, who said, speaking of Danny's Botox, as we often do, he looks amazing. Has anyone ever seen him and Tim Allen's character from Christmas with the Cranks in the same place at the same time? I've never seen Christmas with the Cranks. He did send a picture of Tim Allen in the movie. He looks a little bit like Mickey Rooney's character in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Like he looks a little bit like he's a fake, like he's doing a movie racism.
Yeah,
Mickey Rooney plays
it made
Mr.
me uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yunishi or something like that, and he plays like a Chinese individual, Chinese man in the movie. Not great. It's not great, Bob.
Not acceptable in 2025.
I can't believe it's acceptable in 1960, whatever it was, when Breakfast
What
at
was it
Tiffany's
like
came
when
out.
Robert Downey did Tropic Thunder?
Yes, but wasn't that with a sense of irony?
Oh,
Maybe.
it was
I
very,
don't
yeah,
know.
very ironic. Very
Anyway,
ironic.
that's our housekeeping. Do you enjoy that? Was that good housekeeping?
I
Oh,
went sideways.
subscribe on
Sorry.
YouTube is the other
Sorry,
thing.
Tim.
Subscribe on
Yeah.
YouTube. That's the other thing. So I went to West Ham Tottenham this weekend, but I also worked on Arsenal Bournemouth. I watched Chelsea Liverpool. The highlights of the Man United game as well. So at least 6, maybe 7 teams this weekend, Dunny. And Arne Slot referenced this. He said words to the effect of, like, the motivation wasn't quite there or something like that. I've got the quote here. It was maybe in some moments a few percentages weren't there. And I guess if you're Liverpool and you won the league, maybe I'd let them off a bit. Just talk to us a bit about the motivation to play these games, because at West Ham this weekend, Wan-Bissaka, Jared Bowen, Aaron Cresswell, and Thomas Soucek, they put the hard yards in. Everyone else, I am not convinced they gave a solitary damn about the games. So
Yeah.
how hard is this?
Well, I think you just touched on it. There's the eyeball markers, I think, for a lot of fans and pundits and media members, that when you're watching from a competition standpoint, just not a technical standpoint, like a competition standpoint, like who is undeniably focused on this game. And it's a tough part of the season. I mean, and this is also, listen, the reality is for Arne Slot, like as much as players are going to probably be knocking on his door throughout the course of the season, trying to have a conversation with the manager about minutes and starts, these are moments where every player knows there's nothing to play for. These aren't the 2 games before the Champions League semifinals. Like, this is the titles in the bag. There's nothing else to play for outside of pride. And you're all looking forward to the trophy presentation at Anfield in a couple weeks' time. So, they got the guard of honor from Chelsea. They got hammered. And I think it's, they had that one bad 10 days, PSG home and away, and then the EFL Cup final against Newcastle, where we were talking about the treble, and that vanished into doing the double and then doing the single. And everyone will be happy. It's Liverpool. They win the Premier League, but it's hard not to suggest that, players don't already have their feet in the sand. And I think, that's a little bit different with certain teams. Some teams are going to finish the season strong and recognize that you've got close to £100 million, $100 million available in the FIFA Club World Cup for those participating. And the rest of the teams are going to shut it down and join probably late July, early August in preparation for the next season.
I'm never quite convinced of when they say things like, oh, we're playing for pride or playing for next season. Like, no one in May cares about August, right? Not one person. Why would they? Unless they're playing in a tournament like you mentioned. I mean, you're kind of seeing that a bit. Let me ask you a little bit about Kevin De Bruyne, because we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago. But again, after his winning goal against Wolves on Friday, he once again spoke about the fact that he doesn't think he should be leaving Manchester City. His quote was, I've got one more game at the Etihad. I'm proud of what I'm doing. I think it's also sad that I have to leave, but sometimes it's like this. But the way I'm acting and performing as a teammate is how it should be. I don't know about my future. I think I've shown I can still play. He doesn't want to go to Chicago. He don't want to go to San Diego. He don't want to go to Saudi Arabia. He wants to go to the Premier League and he wants to stay at City. Do you think there's any scenario that happens? Or what happens next?
I mean, listen, I was as shocked as anybody when the announcement came. And I saw some whispers about John Stones. I'm not sure if that's 100% confirmed that he'll be allowed to leave at the end of the season as well. With Kevin De Bruyne, there's no doubt that his level and his competitive fire is still there. I think the only question is what is his ask? Because as you know, I mean, you're doing the same job, but you're probably going to be offered way less money than what he's currently making at Manchester City. The experience from being on the field and the culture inside the locker room for whatever country he decides to go to. Also understanding that his wife and his kids are going to be on this life journey that's going to uproot them from effectively everything that they've ever known in Manchester. So I think there's a lot of variables at play. At the end of the day, whoever's capable of signing Kevin De Bruyne that puts his old Herbie Hancock on whatever contract that's put in front of him, they're going to be a way better team.
Hmm.
And I personally, because obviously I'm calling all the games for Apple, would love to see him in Chicago. I mean, Joe Mansueto, the owner, has monopoly money. The infrastructure changing with Greg Berhalter started off well, bit of a sputter right now. But ultimately, it's a city that loves its soccer, and reimagining Kevin De Bruyne in a Chicago Fire jersey means that you're going to get a lot of butts and seats around Major League Soccer that are going to, specific to Man City fans, want to see Kevin De Bruyne up close and personal. So I
Hmm.
think you'll see a ratings boost. I think you'll see a butts and seats boost. Um, and he'll quite frankly raise the level of play. And this is the league of number 10s. Like Major League Soccer still does believe in the tactical acumen and the setup of dynamic 10s playing number 10 roles and being specific number 10s. So I would love to see him. But he's certainly capable. And by the way, like his attitude, his professionalism, like leadership, like we had seen during the rough times earlier in the season before they went on this 9-game unbeaten streak, that he and Pep were visually combative with one another. And that comes with time.
Hmm.
So I think Pep is recognizing that he's got to turn over the squad if he's going to stay with the group. And that means he's going to have to, walk away and create a power vacuum and a playing style vacuum upon the departure of one of the world's best players in Kevin De Bruyne.
Two other quick bits before we do some heroes and villains. How concerned are you about Man United's win percentage in the league? It's 25% now for Ruben Amorim after 24 games. And he played like a team against Brentford in the loss the weekend that, like, you couldn't have a go at these players. Chidiobi and, forgive me, the other names have escaped me now, but the younger guys that
Moss, yeah.
played.
Moss getting his
And
opportunity.
like Diallo comes back and Luke Shaw gets a few minutes. Like, it wasn't a team you could really, if you were
Fredrickson getting a
annoyed,
run. Yeah.
you could have a go at this team.
Luke
But
Shaw was that he struggled mightily.
of
I
course
mean,
he did.
it was a horrible, horrible night.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible night for Luke Shaw.
But is he doing this on purpose now? Do you think that,
Uh,
like, he's just playing a team in the league that I know they're in between the Bilbao game and whatnot, but like, do you think he's like, right, who's the most likable? Let's play them, because if we play the likable players, no one's gonna have a go at us. Because it's kind of astonishing how much they have just tossed off the league season. It is Man United,
oh, God.
It
Yeah,
is
it's
interesting.
it's so painful. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even waste my time watching the game.
Why would you?
I got on the airplane. The game was about to start in like 30 minutes, and I just like literally made the decision like I would rather sleep than waste my time watching this game.
Is this
Uh,
risky, Danny, from Amorim to do this? Because next season he's going to come in as the lowest win percentage Man United manager ever.
yeah, I mean, in a crazy odd way, um, I don't think anybody is going to be predictive, even with whatever summer transfer window that they have, that they're going to be in the conversation for a top four next year.
Hmm.
I think they've been so horrifically inconsistent, but the names in the back of the jerseys, suggest something completely different. There's outside, like, if you take Bruno out of this group, I can't even, like, if you run a real time simulation of what this team looks like without Bruno, I couldn't even imagine how much worse it would be.
Hmm.
I mean, he is hands down, far and away, the only constant in terms of some, and take and all the demonstrative hand waving and all that stuff that drives me crazy. Like, he's still by far the best player on the team, the
Hmm.
most consistent. And even the fact that he was available and didn't play was surprising. But that shows you if Bruno's not in the lineup, that's how much this game really doesn't matter. There's no
Hmm.
jeopardy in this match. It was always going to be an opportunity for the younger players that have done really, really well in the academies and the U23s to kind of push through into the first team. It'll be kind of, we'll see from Harry Amos and Fredrickson in particular, Cheetah Obi, Martin, if these three are kind of the next, not necessarily Amad Diallo, but certainly Kobe Mainu and Garnacho to a certain extent. They're still waiting for their next Rashford, next Greenwood to come through the group. But yeah, I mean, all focus is on Bilbao coming to town.
Hmm.
And probably the first time all season that Manchester United absolutely benefited from a crucial 10-minute turnaround. Because if not for intervention from VAR, it led to the red card. And then these moments where everything kind of goes right. Bilbao was taking it to him. That first 15 minutes was
Mm,
completely dominated by Athletic Club. And the moment that VAR intervention came and the red card, because there was no genuine attempt to play the ball, everybody in the stadium knew that effectively, if they could just hold on and try to keep it close, they had a chance. But overcoming a 3-0 deficit at Old Trafford
mm.
uh, is going to be a tall, tall order, even with the amount of difference makers that Bilbao has shown capable in some big games. So I think now we're kind of just waiting for Spurs, Manchester United at San Mames and Bilbao in a couple weeks'
Crazy.
time to see who's the worst title-winning team out of both the clubs.
Yeah, and in the Champions League next year as well, which totally changes the
But
summer
by the way,
focus.
really, really quick, what does it say for all of these other clubs that aren't winning anything that potentially Manchester United for 3 years in a row lift another trophy?
Yeah.
I'm not singing their praises because they've been horrible in this process. But like, isn't that like how bad they've been this year to have this direct path to Champions League and win their third consecutive trophy? It's pretty wild.
It says the thing that we've all been saying since the year 1992. They are the luckiest team, sorry, Tim, in the world and will always be the luckiest
Hasn't
team in
felt
the
like it
world.
this year, man.
But it's
God.
still, but even in the doldrums, it's going to land in their laps and they're going to
Yeah.
end the season with a trophy. So, like, again, Man
By
United
the way,
fans, don't bitch to me. Sorry, Tim.
my
Never.
best one of my best friends, Lucas, lives in Bilbao. And he's like, I got tickets. Let's go.
You
Get over
gotta
there.
go. You have to
And it's the
go.
day after my wife's birthday. We don't have babysitters. I've got this big summer that I've told you about, this opportunity. So I'm gonna be gone
Mm,
virtually for the next like month and a half on the road. And I said, I can't imagine with all of those factors, there's still one that's the most important.
mm.
I'm not here for banter. I'm here to watch my team win. And I can't even imagine flying all the way to Bilbao from Salt Lake City to go watch fucking Spurs beat Man United in the Europa League final. Sorry, Tim. Like I'm not. That is the 100% most honest thing I've ever said here. I am not willing to subject myself to the fury of volleys that will come my way should United lose
Yeah.
to Spurs in Bilbao. So I'm not even going to put myself in that moment that it could come back to haunt me.
It's gonna be easier for you to just walk away in Salt Lake City and
I'm sitting
no
on
one's
my
gonna even ask you
couch.
a question about it.
Get away from
No
me.
one
Yeah.
cares. No one's gonna
Nope.
care. Before we get to heroes and villains of the week, I did want to put this to you because we mentioned Cole Palmer earlier on the program. I'm not going to ask you about him scoring a goal because, good luck to him. I'm sure he'll come back. Cole Palmer got some grief earlier last week as he was about to get on the plane to go to Djurgården for the Conference League semi-final.
Jew Garden.
Whatever, I said it.
Jew Garden.
I said it. But also, sidebar,
You know,
let's hope.
you almost signed with them. Like I
Who
almost
did
went
you
there.
did?
Yeah,
Did
the
they
Jew
come to their
Garden and
senses?
AIK. Well, I came to Salt Lake City to play for RSL. Those were the two teams that, yeah, there was a interest about me leaving and going to be a part. And I was highly interested because Stockholm,
Mm,
amazing.
mm.
Two great clubs. And yeah, I didn't do it.
And you went to Salt Lake instead, which is famous for the Book of Mormon's a
Rocky
good
Mountain
musical.
oysters.
It's a
You know what
great
a Rocky
musical.
Mountain? Do you know what Rocky Mountain oyster is?
Is it illegal in most states?
It's a testicle.
Is this the? Isn't there a Chevy Chase sketch about this where he eats 40 testicles or something? Is
Rocky
that
Mountain
it?
oysters.
Is that
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Have you had one?
No,
No, gross.
I'm a normal human being.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's like escargot. Like I'm not eating a fucking snail. Sorry, Tim.
Why would I eat that? What's wrong with you? I have eaten one. It was gross. So Cole Palmer got some grief last week because
Yeah.
he was asked a question that's been doing the rounds across the last like 2 weeks or so in England, as it was 3 weeks ago in America. So I thought I'd put it to you because everyone's answering it. He was asked the question:
Oh, is this the stupid gorilla versus 100
who would win
people?
a fight between a gorilla and
Is
100 people?
is this where it started?
So it wasn't. No, it started in America last week, but it started 5 or 10 years ago on a Reddit thread, and for some reason it
Okay.
got kind of recycled again.
Yeah.
And a lot of American sports people around the draft were talking about it. Again, there's a pathway here. It's probably a podcast, I don't know. But Cole Palmer, who gets a lot of grief for being like stupid, right? I don't know him personally. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He certainly comes across stupid in like the videos he posts with his sister and whatnot. And the whole thing is like, you've got that kind of friend who is a genius, but also like can't work the toaster. Like everyone's got that
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
I think he's probably that friend in the group. But like he was said, I would win. And he said, well, there'll be 100 people. And everyone was like, oh, are you stupid, bro? Are you stupid, bro? I think it was like Tosin saying to him. And it was like, No, Cole Palmer's right. It would be
Yeah.
100 people. Like 60 people would die,
Yeah.
but by the time you got to 60 people, the gorilla would be knackered, and the people, because of the thumbs, would like work out how to do it and the intelligence, and eventually, person 61 would start wearing the gorilla down. So, like, he got a lot of grief. He
Yeah.
got a lot of grief for it, but he was right. We might lose. Lots of people are willing to die, but Cole Palmer is
Sacrifice. Yeah.
perfectly willing to accept it. So I thought
Yeah.
I was annoying. It annoyed me that.
Yeah, I'd still, I wouldn't want to be any of those 40 to 60 people in the beginning that just get absolutely throttled by gorilla arms. I mean, have you ever seen a gorilla run full speed at
Yeah,
you?
kill you.
Like when you're standing by, oh yeah, no. I mean, I almost had my own faces of death moment with that deer a couple of weeks ago. So, uh, instinctually, I would say gorilla, but
Mm.
I tend to agree with you. I think once you get to like 40, 60, 80, like there will be some fatigue, but yeah, I wouldn't want to sacrifice myself.
Yeah. Just leave Cole Palmer
I
alone.
hate
He was
I
right.
hate like that anyway. Sorry, Tim.
Why? It was great. That got us an hour of content, that is. We could have done a whole show on that.
Probably.
Which footballers would you send in first? And who would
Ooh.
you never send in?
I would actually save. I would save Diego Costa for the moment that the gorilla is so fatigued that a human being would have a chance.
Man 61 is Diego Costa.
Diego Costa in his prime.
Mm.
I I would probably have Zlatan in that conversation in that area as well. Um, Tarkowski, I would want in that
Oh,
group. Like
yeah.
if you gave me like 5 or 6 dudes that are just, I would Antonio Rudiger, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I would want him in there. Let's see who else.
Who wouldn't you put in there? Give me some people you would never send.
Um, Bruno. I don't think Bruno would last too long. Bruno would start flinging his arms out. He dead. My man dead.
Not a
Like
chance.
I was trying to think about who else. God,
Luke
who
Shaw?
would be?
Luke Shaw wouldn't last. He wouldn't make the run up
No
to the
chance. No
gorilla.
chance.
He wouldn't get across the bridge.
Harry wouldn't last as well. Casemiro and Ugarte, I think would be able to hold on for a little while.
Casemiro's looking ripped now. I think he probably do
Dude.
okay.
Good on him, man.
Yeah.
Like, remember, they win the FA Cup and he jumps on the plane. He's out, no celebration. You thought done and dusted, ain't coming back.
Mm.
And like to see what he's had, this little renaissance. Like, you can't run him every single game, but in big matches, he's absolutely shown his importance. God, who was I can't remember his name right now, the goalkeeper at Bayern Munich. He was the executive
Oliver
that got
Kahn.
fired. Oliver Kahn.
Mm.
Oliver Kahn could do some damage.
Definitely send him in. Okay.
Yeah.
I
There's
like
nobody
he,
on West. Nobody on West Ham would survive.
Thomas Socek would be there. Thomas Socek would take 1,000 punches and never throw one back. Like Homer Simpson when he
What was
fights
that?
Mo.
What was that punching bag with like the sand base when we were kids?
Oh, yeah,
And like you
yeah.
punch at the clown's face and go, woo.
That's Thomas Socek. That's what
woo."
it'd be like. Yeah.
That's a good shout.
Wouldn't send Max Kilman, but we'll get there. Anyway,
Oh, boy.
let's do some heroes and villains to wrap up today's program. Give us your hero of the week, Danny.
Oh, hero of the week. There's this kid named Nathan Ordaz for LAFC. He was one of their first academy kids. And there's this really cool picture where he's the ball boy when Carlos Vela scores this this incredible goal in front of 3252, and Ordaz is like standing underneath the 3252, the fans, and he's in the shot. And the kids come through, and little by little, he's starting to score some goals. Scored against Inter Miami in their 1-0 win before the return leg. He played this weekend instead of Olivier Giroud. He's so much more dynamic. He's kind of like the Matty Bogusz was last year. He affords both David Martinez and Denny Bouanga to really start moving around. Late runs from Tim Tillman, Mark Delgado. But he got a goal. He was really important in the attacking phase of play. I said this during the broadcast, like he's just clicking. Something's clicked. And I think at that level, as you make that jump, my other hero really quickly is Jesper Sorensen, the Vancouver Whitecaps. So I think I was trying to think about this the other day. I don't think there's been a manager that's come into Major League Soccer and in his first 15 games had the amount of success that Jesper Sorensen and the Vancouver Whitecaps are having. He went to CONCACAF Champions Cup, knocks out Saprissa, home and away, knocks out Monterrey from Liga MX, home and away, knocks out Pumas from Liga MX, home and away, and just knocks out Inter Miami, home and away. To do that while living in Vancouver and thinking about the flights to Costa Rica, flights to Mexico, flights to Miami, and all doing that while he has one loss in the
Mm.
start in the Western Conference. He's completely pulled away Vancouver from everybody. They lose Stephen Armstrong in the offseason. He had family commitments that he wanted to go back. Ryan Gauld goes down with injury, one of the best number 10 playmakers in Major League Soccer. Brian White scoring goals all over the place. Sebastian Berhalter, Greg Berhalter's son, probably deserves a U.S. men's national team call-up as well. So a shout out to Jesper Sorensen. Nobody really knew who he was coming through the Danish system, the youth academies. He was at Brøndby, not a lot of success. Stepping in the shadow of Vanni Sartini, one of my favorite interviews in Major League Soccer. He's been phenomenal. And everyone behind the scenes in a time where Vancouver kind of publicly stated they were looking for either new owners or significant investment. They've got to redo this deal with BC Place, where last year they couldn't even play their home game. They had to go to Portland because there was a motorcycle event at BC Place because it's a shared public venue. He's been amazing. So I think those are kind of like my double deuces of guys that I liked.
I have a brief hero for you, and it's Jamie Vardy. Only because
The
of
whistle,
the
amazing.
whistle, but also the follow-up to the whistle. So if you missed it, the referee goes down in the game 20 minutes in, Leicester Southampton with some sort of muscle injury. So he's pulled his hamstring, whatever. Forgive me, I don't know exactly what happened to the ref. But he goes down, he can't get up, and it takes like 10 minutes to get him treatment and get up. Hopefully he's okay. So Jamie Vardy, with the referee on the ground, goes over, takes the whistle, which is like on his wrist, tied on his wrist by like a bit of string or whatever, and blows the whistle. Now, firstly, we're all a bit like, why did he do this? Like, was it just a bit like Gaza with the yellow card all those years ago for
Yeah.
Rangers? Like, what's he actually doing? So he's on Match of the Day later in the day, and Lineker says to him, "So, like, was that just a bit of fun? Why did you do it?" And Jamie Vardy said, "Quote." To be honest with you, I saw Southampton sprinting down the left wing and the referee was down. And I thought, I better stop the game because they're on the attack and they might score.
So
Which
smart.
is excellent. Like he's
Yeah.
so on it still that they were on the counter and he's like, I can stop this. And just
Yeah.
like did it.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent
Yep.
stuff. It just goes to show he's still switched on. He scored a great goal in this game. Leicester's first home goal since like December or whatever. Not staying at Leicester. And let me put this to you. Someone mentioned this to me earlier on. I kind of mentioned it in conversation. On the bench for Arsenal next year, Jamie Vardy
Why not?
playing in the League Cup. Why not?
As long as they can manage his personality, and as long as they have the cultural ability to like call him out if he needs to be calling out. And again, I'm not suggesting he's a complete sorry, Tim, anything beyond that. But there is something to be said about guys at the end of their career where they feel as though they're still a starter. And even though it is the obvious decline of their year or their career, how do you get them to buy in? I watched this in Seattle with Nico Ladero.
Mm,
Last year, he goes to Orlando. He comes off the bench. He had 11 assists over the course of the season. Now he's at Houston. He's he's come to terms with where he's at in his career. So if you do this, it has to be very clear, right? Very precise. This is your role. This is how I'm going to use you. Don't be coming to me because you want to be a starter. Don't expect to be a starter. I need you to be the impact sub. And the guy that can come on and ruin things for the opponent's back line, can score timely goals. And if you can do that, we can work together. But you've got to believe in the human being that is willing and accepting of a role like that because it's the
mm.
hardest thing as a player. And I was there at the end of my career where all of a sudden these kids are coming through and I'm like, I'm still fucking better than this guy. Sorry, Tim. But I didn't have some of the other tools that that kid had, even though I had the experience and I had other abilities that they didn't. And it's a bitter pill to swallow. It is a bitter pill to swallow.
It's going to be really intriguing what he does. Give us a villain of the weekend.
I don't know the backstory to Natasha Bedingfield and Unwritten in the locker room for Burnley. I don't pretend to. I'm not really interested. I know the song. I know Max Brados absolutely despises her music.
Oh,
And to
why?
Max Brados, Natasha Bedingfield is Pitbull to me. Hey,
You don't
darling.
like Pitbull. You don't care
Oh, I
for
can't.
Pitbull. He's a
Every,
good-looking
I
man. He's
mean,
got a good look.
every single stadium I walked into was playing Black Eyed Peas, I Got a Feeling, and Pitbull saying Dale over and over and over. I was good. I never needed to hear it again. Not my type of music, not my type of artist. But same with Max and Natasha Bedingfield. So again, I see it online. Again, not a Burnley guy, but when I'm seeing the song and it says unwritten, I just one flag popped up to me. And it wasn't 3 years ago around this time that they were promoted.
Yeah.
So it's already been written that it's not unwritten. I don't know. It really just annoyed the living out of me. Sorry, Tim. I'm cursing today.
Is she a
But
Burnley fan? Is that why? Is
I
that
don't know.
you don't
No,
know?
no. Yo no say,
It could
Peril.
have just
Yo
been
no.
there.
I I saw it on the socials.
She's incredibly popular. So I remember her from like 20 years ago, but I'd be lying to you if I'd followed her career. She's the 250th most popular artist on Spotify in the
I believe
world.
it.
In
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. We
What?
actually we got so yeah, I want you to pull this. Um You can pull this for the show on SiriusXM on the football show. We got a message and saying it was Chad from South Carolina,
Mm.
and he goes, "Please make this song stop," because we played it in the final second. He said, "I'm having flashbacks on a bus ride home with my girls' varsity team after getting absolutely smoked in a playoff game." And all the girls sang that song over and over and over all the way home for a 2 hour bus drive. He said, I almost called an Uber to pick me up on the interstate.
I actually, I don't think I've heard it, but I think if I played it, I would have heard it. But I don't want to
Yeah.
play it on the podcast because she
Yeah.
might
Cause,
sue.
yeah, don't.
So we cannot afford the legal bills to
We're already
cover.
close enough. We
We
don't
are
need to be
far
sued.
too close. We're far too close. My villain, just to allow me to vent for 1 minute, is how much I don't like Max Kilman.
Mm.
Like, I just have so little time for Max Kilman. If you don't know Max Kilman, I wouldn't be surprised. He's the most anonymous footballer in the world. Like, he's so weak and a non-event of a player. You wouldn't even know that he played 30 plus times for West Ham this season. A £40 million signing from Wolverhampton Wanderers, which is insane. You wouldn't get £5 million from him now from anybody. I don't think it get a game for LA Galaxy. And they can lose a game without a team having a shot against them. Like, he is so poor. And I've never really liked him very much this season. He's so weak and personalityless. But then this weekend against Tottenham, the West Ham game, which I went to, it was a nothing game. Like, a ball comes over the top and Kilman's got it. There's a player running near him, but he's kind of doing nothing. And there's loads of options for him here. And he's not a bad sort of footballer in terms of ball control. He can get it under control and go back to the goalkeeper. He can get it under control and look for like Cresswell or whoever's next to him, or he can clear it into touch for a corner or a throw in. There's loads of options. The one thing you can't do is play it through the body of a human being. And what he tried to do was play it
Much more
through.
difficult.
It's tough to do. It's tough to do. He's not a hologram. So he tried to play it through Mateus Tell, which is obviously a total balls up. But luckily for Kilman, it came back to him. So phew, what a relief. I made a bad error, but I got away with that one. So
Let's
then
do
at
it
that
again.
point, he has the option to go back to Areola, look for Cresswell, put it into touch, put it out for a corner. And he thought, you know what? I'll try that again. I'll try again. So like he tries to get through Tell to get to Tadibo, who's equally as crap and like slow and unfit and useless.
47.5 million?
Insane. And he done it again. And then Tottenham went on to score, having not touched the ball for the entirety of the game
Wow.
to that point. He's so bad. And like some West Ham fans were like to me after the game, oh, and he had a good game after that. Oh, after he cost us the goal, he had a good game. And he didn't. All he did was kick Richarlison constantly. And like the other week against Newcastle, he scored an own goal. He's fucking useless, right? Sorry, Tim. And like people trying to convince me he's good. Like people's judgment is insane to me. It's insane.
Would
And like
you have a decision to make? You can choose one or the other. Kilman
Tadibo or
or
Kilman,
no, Tilo Kehrer.
Kara.
Yeah.
I'd have Kara. Kara's
Okay.
better.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
Kilman's so bad, I would have Tilo
Wow.
Kara back. That's how bad he
Wow.
is. So weak. Weak
That
as
is a
piss.
really low bar.
A centre half that's weak as piss. You can't have it. And then,
Weak
like,
as piss.
he's
What
just
if it's a
so.
good stream?
It's not Max Kilman, is it? That'd be a Kurt
It's a
Zuma.
dribbler.
That'd be a Kurt Zuma pre-cat kicking
Meow.
level of piss. But he's just so
Uh,
bad. And you can't do anything with him. You can't do anything with this guy because he's unsellable. And like everyone who tried to defend any defender to you ever, you say to him, okay, use your mind's eye. Remember the game where he had a great powerhouse defensive performance. If you can
yeah.
remember that one game where he headed the ball away constantly, put in amazing tackles, and you kept a clean sheet that day because of his performance, which every defender should have.
Yeah.
They should all have it. And every like defender in your team, they should have it. I cannot think of one time he played well defensively. Don't tell me he's got great ball control. Don't tell me about that one through ball he played to Jarrod Bowen in August. Tell me about the defensive acumen. And if he ain't got it, he's crap. And that's Max Kilman. Useless.
And that's Tom Rennie.
unsellable player. Utterly unsellable. Anyway,
Oh, I love this.
that's the podcast for today. Next week is the West Ham Man United game, so we'll just see. You
Hot
got to watch
sauce.
it, You're going to have to watch
Hot
it.
sauce. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. I will. I will.
have to.
I got a fun one. I'm on my way to Portland. So get to see Phil Neville and company playing host to Sporting Kansas City. That's starting to come around. They've got what 4 wins in the last 5 matches. After
Will they have a shot this week? Or?
To be determined.
Don't need to.
Yeah. Well,
Optional.
you just need own goals. But by the way, quick soapbox.
Yes.
The stupidity of judgment calls about who deserves a goal and who doesn't get a goal, like Rafinha's shot. The fact that it's been touched off the crossbar that then hits the goalkeeper and you're judging it as his own goal. And even the fucking stupidity. Sorry, Tim. This really chaps my ass. If the ball hits the post or the crossbar, that is a shot on goal. It is the definition of a shot on goal. What the fuck are we doing? Sorry, Tim. By saying that doesn't register. Oh, he's hit the crossbar, but it's not a shot on. They had 0 shots on goal, but they hit the crossbar twice. Well, they fucking hit the crossbar twice means they hit the shot on goal. What are we talking about? Sorry, Tim. Whatever.
This was too much swearing for the end of the program. Sorry, Tim. That is Brian Dunseth over there. I'm Tom Rennie. Tim Horsey produced the program. It's called Week in the Tackle. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a review, a positive one, please. 5 full stars. And we'll see you next week.